But now, anti-gravity, that's a whole that's a whole new different ballgame. I am tapped. I am locked in to anti-gravity. And there's probably better, other easier options and stuff too. But no, for me, that IDE is going ham. And I'm using
Okay,
Cloud
so
Code inside of it.
I've heard of it, but I haven't gotten a chance to experiment with it. Like, explain to me like you're my cousin.
Good,
No, I was gonna
yeah.
say, yeah, I was gonna say, why don't you explain why you are enjoying it so that they have context for like what you like about it versus all the 75 other things they might hear about or see on their timelines.
Well, one, it's free. So yeah, for me, I'm a big proponent of trying to find like the tools that are accessible for everybody, approachable. And once you are like, oh, this extra thing costs $5 a month, this extra thing costs $20 a month, this extra thing costs 35, this extra thing costs 200 a year. Like, no, when we start adding all that up, that's not really feasible for, you know, me personally for one, and just other creatives and other people out there that I want to get this information out to. A lot of the workshops I've been doing, for the kids and stuff, they're not doing that. You know what I'm saying? So anti-gravity is Google's IDE, so it's its coding interface that has the ability to have LLMs or the chatbots, the AI models inside of it. So basically it's the AI prompting little engine, little interface, and it's a good time. I think some of the alternatives out there though, like Visual Studio Code, it basically is like Google's Visual Studio skin essentially. Visual Studio Code is also free, but this is just like, it's just easy. It's just easy. It's Google, man. They make it so user friendly and easy to set up and run and use. And you're not locked into just using like the Google AI engines. You can use Claude, you can use GPT inside of it. You can use, you probably, yeah, it's a lot. It's a lot.
He says a lot. Yeah, but I mean, basically, what you're describing is the similar experience that you have with all of them, or at some point they'll all kind of copy each other. So one might have a feature that the others don't for a week or two, but then they'll have their version of it. But Google is very generous with the free usage. Also, right now, OpenAI has been very generous. Not as generous, but they're being very generous too. That's mostly PR. Google is more generous because they're training off all of that. So, there's an incentive there. But I think the good thing for people to have is an option that is allowing them to actually make something, because a lot of them give you free usage, but it's not enough to finish. You can get started and then you end up having to buy in to really make the thing. So I think that anti-gravity is a really good tool because the AI is built into it. So it's not Visual Studio Code is made for coders before AI existed, in this capacity. So AI in that setup is kind of an add-on, whereas anti-gravity, Gemini is built into it. So it's like you're talking to Gemini in a coding environment, as opposed to you're trying to add on AI to an existing coding environment. It's already kind of primed and ready for you to have a conversational relationship with it. And I think that's an easier hurdle for people to, okay, let's make something. It's easier.
It's true. It's true. I'm having a blast. Yeah. A couple of light bulb moments. I'll talk about it. But yeah. I kind of went on a little rant this morning too from the X page. I don't know if y'all seen that, but yeah, yeah, it's all good though.
But I would say, you haven't really missed much, boss. It's just people feeling a lot of the same energy that we saw with people with the image generation stuff, is the ability to make something that they couldn't make before. And I think it captures that same feeling. And I think there's not any stigma around it because it's code and it's not considered an artistic expression. So nobody feels like you're stealing from anybody or doing it, impersonating a developer. You're not catching that heat, because you made an app with AI. Nobody cares if it works. So I think it makes people feel welcome to try to make something. Um, and the more you see other people doing it, the less of a ordeal it feels like. You know, it doesn't feel like, oh, I got to learn the code. You're starting to see that you really don't.
How do you feel about that shift? Because I've been noticing that as well too. And like I'm trying to imagine 5, 10 years down the line. It's hard. Let me see, I got boss pulling it. We'll pull that up right now. Ready?
No, no, you go ahead and finish. Go ahead
Okay.
and finish.
Oh, my bad, my bad.
You good, you good.
Got distracted, my fault. No, I just like, is this the way we're going? Like people are just going to be able to, and eventually not even type it, just talk it out to these engines, these bots, and create what we need to create. Like I'm having a hard time of really kind of fathoming what that looks like, just because I'm shocked at what the landscape looks like now. Like I'm having a hard time wrapping around what do I want to create, but then I'm like, okay, let's just make like unfortunately for some of these tools out there where like people are like, let's just make an alternative to this paid tools that I'm paying for. I don't really even know what I'm paying for if I could just make them now. So
But I mean, that's value, right? Because
yeah.
I think that you're expressing something that's completely valid that a lot of people struggle with is I don't know what to make.
Mhm.
And that's it's a weird thing to struggle with because you feel like you should be able to do something with this tool. You see other people making something cool, like you like, why can't I figure out something? It's the same reason that you maybe haven't figured out how to make an invention that's on Shark Tank. Like everybody's just not sitting around with multi-million-dollar ideas just popping out all the time. Some of that stuff takes time to nourish and cultivate, and has to start somewhere. And you can get lucky, but that's luck. So I think to get your reps in, what you're talking about is at least a starting point, and you're adding value to your own life by making an alternative to something you were paying for. I think that's a really cool way to approach it, or even something that you can't afford to pay for. That's
Mm,
really, if you think about it, like forget the ones you're already paying for. What about the one you can't afford to pay for that you want? That's the one
yeah.
you should try to make, like the one that's super ambitious, like that you really don't even understand how you would make it. Like that's the long term project. I would say if you don't have an idea of your own, that's something you can aim for, where you can make progress and do levels and really learn as you go.
It's a good point. It's a good point. My guy Zeus in the building, Dubs. It's good to see you, family. Welcome in. What's the word, fam? It's good to see you. It's good to see you. Yeah, 1,000%. I didn't even think about that because to me, my mindset is like, oh, if I can't afford it, it goes in one ear out the other. I kicked that out of my brain. Like, oh well. So maybe I had to might revisit that. Like, yeah, some of these overpriced things, see what I can cook up. But
So you're already over here, be like the conversation kind of took it in that way, but I think this is the tweet that you were talking about. This one right here that I'm
okay,
going to a plethora.
yeah,
I went
it
to
was. It
find it
was
to pull it up. I went to find it to pull it up and be like, let's get into it. Because I
all
feel
right.
like a
Let's do
lot of
it.
people do feel like this sometimes. Like when we have the tools that have been made to make it easier, well, like what dang, like if people had access to this, or if we were
Yeah.
given easier or quicker access to some of these tools, we could have been at a different place a long time ago.
Mm,
And I know that we're here now, but I see you kind of listed some of those down there that kind of sometimes can keep people from pursuing it in that best way. And I see there's already talking about take that big idea and just start somewhere with the tools that are available,
right.
which is super great. But I do kind of sometimes still feel like people are held back, even though it does look easy. They do have some of this like bias, the ego, the embarrassment, the
Yeah.
afraid to be wrong, the afraid of, after it's built, what am I going to do with it then?
Yeah.
Sometimes that gets in the way of people really kind of stepping into what it is.
Huge facts. Yeah. I was in the gym and it was in between reps, and I'm like, yeah, I was really just like, dang, I wish, the easiest way to learn something is just to see something. And to be able to just watch this bot building these apps, multiple different apps across different genres and whatever, and using different code languages, like just to watch that, like so many things was like, like that was me watching Claude code, and I'm like, that's crazy. Like we could have did this, I could have did this years ago, but instead it's like, go to university, study these old things in these books. You'll figure it out. It was, you know what I'm saying? It's a very gate kept thing. For what reason? So where I was like, okay, unless we're trying to block the flow of knowledge, because the best way, we all know, the apprenticeship. Just go get thrown into the fire and watch the professional and be in that environment and watch them do what they do. And I did that with the bots, and I was like, so much from like the last 20 years of trying to learn code over these years came together, and I was like, oh crap, okay, I'm getting it now. So that was that. That was that.
Well, I will say that there are definitely boot camp models out there where they have proven that you don't have to go the traditional route to get the knowledge. I think there's not enough of the boot camps that exist. There's not enough people that know they exist in the areas where they are. But that is a good model that I just want to point out that does exist, that addresses what you're talking about. And in this environment, they probably have pivoted by necessity to probably trying to teach people about AI, because they probably have fewer people that are coming to them to learn coding like they used to have. So that's something to even consider, that they have to, probably change some of their business models in some cases, because it's so easy to do it this way. I think even with the AI coding, some of those things that you pointed out can still get in the way of people using it effectively, because it's the same obstacles that prevented them from doing the coding in the first place. So I think you have to get to a place where, that's why I said it's a good idea to start with, let me just try to make the thing I'm using but for free, or make my version with extra features, or make the thing that I can't afford. Like, that's the easier thing to tackle than coming up with an idea, because you don't have to put that kind of pressure on yourself. Ideas sometimes just have to come to you. It's a spark ignites the fire, so to speak. And the spark hasn't maybe happened yet, but you can. I see people stressing themselves out trying to force it, trying to put pressure on themselves to come up with something, or try to make something that they probably know isn't a good idea work just for the sake of making it work. And I think, as I have dabbled in a little bit in the open source community in these GitHubs, there's something to be said for just making something that works without trying to make it like a business thing, or something where you profit off of it. So just keep building whatever you're building, keep making whatever it is you're doing on Lovable. It doesn't matter. You don't have to, it's not a contest. You don't have to have anybody's approval for your output. If you're excited about it, I love it.
That's the word, though. That's the word. Because and I feel like that's in not necessarily direct, but there is such a big push now to like monetize everything, like whatever you build, put it out there and have somebody pay for it, and new income streams, and commercializing every part of your life. And I mean, I feel like let's normalize. Let's just creating for creating's sake. We say that a lot with art, but I don't really say. I think this is probably the first time I've heard it said in, I guess we can say, in a tech way. So I don't know, that just kind of like flipped the switch a little bit in my brain. Y'all know how averse I am to like coding and dev stuff, even though like having some ideas and taking some steps for me have been those small ways of like that proposal that I made. I'm probably looking at not returning to my same position, but I want to have something better for the people that came after me. So I'm like, okay, how can I compile all this information that I have and make it accessible in a way for people who come after? And I'm like, well, they're not gonna be able to take it from the ways that I have right now. So I'm gonna have to like make something standalone. And I've been in my brain thinking about, okay, how do I compile all this information, make it standalone so I can send it to whoever it is who might be here after me. And that for me was kind of like just a little switch of like, okay, well, maybe you can jump in and try to figure some of this out and make this tool where you can compile all this information, make it searchable, some database, some type of something like that. And not have to be so concerned with other pieces that I have in my brain of like, okay, what am I gonna do with it after that? How can I parlay it into something else? Like, just create with it, experiment with it, like we've talked about for art and with music and all this other type of stuff. And like that was kind of beneficial right there. So that was a little word I see through. I mean, you always got the word, but a little word right there.
And I'll tell you, because I'm all about intention. So I said that purposefully, and I'm glad you picked it up that way, because that's how I see it. It is the same at this point of a mental exercise as creating, because you the idea aspect of it. If you're trying to learn how to paint or draw or dance or whatever, you can't necessarily be in the learning phase and the expert phase at the same time.
Exactly.
There's a point where even as you become an expert, you still learn, but you're not doing them at the same time. You got to take one hat off, put the other. So I think getting your reps in without the concern of the final product, that's what practice is. So it's the same thing. And because we're talking about making things, yes, it's different because you are not necessarily by hand making something, but the whole thing with this vibe coding, if you're making anything that's of any sort of effort, there is a back and forth. There is a relationship with what's going on. You have it, show it to you. You don't like it, you ask for this. You're becoming a product manager, or whatever. There's this weird business hierarchical relationship that people are putting around it, because that's how they know how to vocalize this type of thing. But fine, if that's what you have to go with, then you're the product manager, project manager, business, whatever, if that works for you. But that's really more the relationship. But I feel like when you kind of have made enough little attempts, what you end up with, boss, is a portfolio. And then you have something that you can actually show people. And if you've made a whole bunch of little projects, by the time you've done that, you know how to clean it up and make it presentable. So it's not just your sloppy portfolio, just like when you have an artist portfolio, you do your edits, you give them the nice way. But just having done all of that little stuff, you come out at the other end in a way that's putting you at an advantage. If you can package yourself properly, that you actually can make money. You'll know how to make this a business because you've done all the practice.